helicopter right here. This is very heavy police presence at the home of the suspect they have identified in the D.C. pipe bomb probe. So this is a live look from the Fox 5 D.C. helicopter as you see in a cul-de-sac. The FBI now at the home of this suspect. And we were learning more earlier as we were hearing from the FBI after they announced that they made an arrest in the nearly 5-year-old investigation into who placed pipe bombs in Washington, D.C. before the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. This arrest marks the first time investigators have settled on a suspect in an act that has had a long investigation by law enforcement and also led to some conspiracy theories. Those pipe bombs were placed on January 5th, 2021 near the offices of the helicopter.
Hey, welcome into Courageous Media. Thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate you rolling up. Please smash that like button if you haven't already and subscribe. We've got big breaking news today talking about the fact that the FBI has arrested a suspect in the J5, J6 pipe bombing case. I say that because we know that the pipe bombs were supposedly placed the night before. However, they had 1-hour kitchen timers that were set to go off specifically at the time that the Senate was supposed to be, confirming the election results. So you can't place a bomb the night before with a 1-hour timer. This doesn't work unless that timer was never supposed to move. So there's still all sorts of open questions. This only goes to hopefully open a door where maybe we can get some of those answers. But let me know what you think in the comments. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. So we've got breaking news. I want to dive into this story. The FBI announced today that they have arrested a suspect in the pipe bomb case. And that suspect is Brian Cole. Now, what do we know about Brian Cole? Very little to date. There is in about a half an hour, there is a press conference coming up. The FBI will be speaking. I assume it will be Cash and Dan, maybe just Cash, not sure. We will probably get some more details then. But scouring Twitter, we know very little about who this Brian Cole is. There are suspected ties to Antifa. We're going to dive into that as Julie Kelly was on the Benny Johnson show. But first, let's check in with Fox News as they broke the story earlier today about the fact that the J6 pipe bomber suspect has been arrested. Here we go.
There is a suspect that is in custody for the pipe bombs that were placed at the DNC and I think the RNC, both on January 6th, the night before January 6th. This is a photograph that they have here. Now, this is 5 years on.
Yeah.
So what do you think the break in the case might have been?
You know, it's really hard to say, but whatever it was, you're going to have these questions of why now? What's been going on for the last 5 years? Now, unless you have something where somebody came forward or something else broke and they got some evidence that they didn't have, you're going to say, were they pressing all along here? Why now? We both know this is going to be heavily politicized, right? Because it's on the eve of J6. Is it tied to J6, et cetera? The thing that I find interesting is that there's reporting out there over the last couple of weeks, and it was rumored online, so a lot of us didn't give it too much credit because it wasn't corroborated yet, but that they had identified this person through the gate. That is the way the person walked. That technology has come a long way, never mind with the AI overlay. And that kind of a thing, maybe it's not enough to say I got probable cause, but it's a pointer. I'm looking to see if it's that or if it was some other mechanism, but this will
very
be
interesting. We were making the comment with David Sponser.
Now, when he says that, this is the one part when they're talking to this retired, NYPD detective, and he says, he supposedly says that the way they caught this person was they looked at his gait. Well, that doesn't smack as very credible, given that the Blaze used that same technology, the gate, and identified a totally different person. They identified former Capitol police officer or current Capitol police officer, former, because now she works for the CIA. They identified her, a woman. So if you're going to say that they used gate technology, somehow they must have different footage or there's something else going on. So that one, when I heard it, I'm like, that does not ring true to me. Let me know what you think in the comments. So let's keep going with Fox News.
Reporting earlier this hour that it seems to me, and I don't want to speak for Dana, but you had to get a tip from someone.
Yeah.
Because the identity of this person is well conceived.
Yeah.
So maybe identify the hood, maybe the backpack, maybe there's something else on the
Yeah, there was a lot done apparently with the sneakers. The sneakers were relatively rare as these things go, and so they did a deep, deep dive. I just happened to notice about the sneakers and if they were sold in the Washington, D.C. area. And you can backtrack a lot. We had a case one time we found somebody in Hawaii relative to a backpack that he had bought. So you can do this kind of stuff if you have the investigatory muscle. Maybe it takes a long time. Maybe the sneakers end up being a break. We'll have to see. But fascinating that after 5 years, this is a big win. Let's see if it holds up. You got to make sure that you got the right person, innocent until proven guilty. But if they have nailed this 5 years on, after all the speculation and the political machinations, this is a big win.
So theoretically, what they're saying is that they identified this person not with a new investigation or new evidence, but they identified Brian Cole based on evidence that the FBI had in its possession since basically J6 of 2021. So they've had this in their possession for almost 5 years. Now, if that is the case, then that obviously begs the question: was the under Joe Biden, was the FBI given a stand down order? And if they were given a stand down order, why didn't they just delete the evidence, destroy the evidence, corrupt the evidence? And if it was evidence that's been in their possession said this whole time, how is it that we are just now getting to a suspect when obviously Cash and Dan have been in the driver's seat for almost 9 months now? Did it take men? And I'm just asking the question. Maybe it took that long to go through that evidence, to assimilate that evidence, to put the pieces together. Maybe they needed a breakthrough based on evidence that they had where they had to go find the shoes. There's been rumors that suddenly the cell phone data was uncorrupted. That it was never really corrupted all along, that maybe it was buried somewhere. I don't know. We won't know probably until we get to that FBI press conference. But we do have a suspect in custody now, Brian Cole. Now, I want to dive in because if it was Gate that they looked at, this is a very interesting video that somebody that was posted showing the two individuals a comparison of the Gate using some AI and some side-by-side video footage. But I want to dive in because Benny Johnson had Julie Kelly. And if there's one expert on the whole J6 situation, and she has dedicated essentially the last 5 years to reporting on this J6 hoax. When I say hoax, all the arrests, the 1,600 people that were deprived of their constitutional rights, their lives ripped apart as political prisoners by the Biden administration, by the globalist cabal of corruptocrats acting through Biden. Julie Kelly has been the expert, and she appeared on the Benny Johnson show to talk about this arrest. Let's check it out.
Julie, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Benny.
So we have a name now, Jacob Cole, an anarchist. I'm sorry, Brian Cole, correction. Brian Cole, an anarchist from Virginia, found because of existing evidence inside of the FBI, no doubt phone records, that have somehow become uncorrupted magically. But this is now the identity of the alleged pipe bomber. The floor is yours. Nobody knows more about this. Does this official story pass the smell test? What would be the reason or the rationale for anybody in the FBI to overlook such evidence? I can't wait to hear what's actually happening here, Julie.
Right. So, Benny, I've been on your show, I don't know how many times over the past 4 years, talking
Thousands,
about
yeah.
all of the developments in the pipe bomb scandal, pipe bomb stunt, really, that it was, and other matters related to January 6th. So it does appear, though, that the FBI has a suspect who was arrested this morning in Virginia. His name is being reported as Brian Cole. There is some speculation and reporting from other corporate news sources that this individual is tied to Antifa. We will find out more. 1 o'clock is the press conference with DOJ, FBI. So we will learn.
Now that might explain if they are tied to Antifa. That could, and they weren't an inside person. I still don't buy any of that, but that could explain why the FBI actively for 5 years covered up their identity, and yet it was not an inside job. It wasn't part of an op to take down the president of the United States. So If we are proceeding from the idea that this is an outside person who planted this as a hoax, as a terrorist ruse, because obviously these bombs didn't go off. And obviously, if they were planted the night before, they couldn't be planted with kitchen timers that only had an hour. So if they were planted the night before, the kitchen timers were never, ever going to get to the point where they actually went off. If they were planted the day of, then just how viable were these things? There's still lots of unanswered questions. But if this person was Antifa, it could explain why the FBI wanted to actively cover them up, because it would completely destroy the J6 narrative. I personally still think that this is an inside job. Either Brian Cole is connected somewhere with the feds, CIA, FBI, some intelligence service. I don't know. He's a deep state operative of some kind. So it'll be interesting to see what they get to when they get to this press conference.
More details and hopefully see the indictment. So for people who are unclear about who the suspect is, this is the individual seen with the hoodie on, with gloves, carrying the backpack. There he is, not a she, a he. There he is, allegedly this individual walking around Capitol Hill between 7:30 and 8:30 the night of January 5th, 2021, and allegedly planting those devices outside the headquarters of both the RNC and DNC, which are just blocks away from the U.S. Capitol. So this is the individual we believe that the FBI has been, we know has been investigating, but arrested early this morning in Virginia.
So that leaves a lot of unanswered questions, frankly.
Yes, it does.
For me. And one of your last appearances on this program, you were talking about the suspiciousness of the discovery of these pipe bombs, if you can even call them that, and how these devices were discovered, one, at the just perfect time in order to draw away resources from the Capitol, but then two, how mysterious the backgrounds of the people who discovered them, the reactions to Secret Service officers, so many questions left unanswered on that day. Let's start there on the actual day itself, the physical evidence that we know, Julie, and then I'd like to extrapolate to the greater FBI and why this sudden aha moment. But if we could start there on the day, what physical evidence would you need to see to get locked into this story and say, you know what, yes, this is beyond a shadow of a doubt. Now it suddenly makes sense. Me, the preeminent reporter who has blown so many holes in the official narrative, I now agree with this timeline. What would you need to see, loose ends would you see tightened up?
So Benny, to your point, and I still stand by this. Now I'm willing to be open-minded, which is not like me, but I will be in this instance. As you and I have talked about, and I think a lot of evidence points to, there are very suspicious surroundings related to the discovery of that device at 12:40, the device right near the RNC headquarters. The discovery of that device by a woman who was doing her laundry that day, decided to do it at noon and then go back at 12:40, where she said she found this device that now we have been told, and the FBI, including this FBI, has been saying for years was planted the night before. The 12:40 discovery is important because the joint session of Congress began at 1 o'clock, just a few blocks away at the U.S. Capitol. So what happened there, and I know you had Chief Sund on, he probably talked about this, the diversion of resources, law enforcement, personnel, police, away from the Capitol to the RNC to try to figure out if this device was legit or not. Now, it's very important also to underscore, these devices were not viable. We have FBI analysis that was conducted at Quantico actually early on that said, while it looked viable, and we had FBI officials telling us for years, not this FBI, the old FBI, that it was viable. However, they were not. So this woman also, and I've got a lot of reporting on her at my Substack, Declassified with Julie Kelly. She's tied to law enforcement. She was working for FirstNet, which is this private public partnership to provide broadband during crises or disasters. So she has law enforcement ties, which always was kind of suspicious to me. Fast forward then to the discovery of the DNC device, where what we've talked about, allegedly sitting there for 17 hours, missed by at least 2 bomb-sniffing canine units, missed by police officers from Capitol Police, DC Metro Police, Secret Service, because Kamala Harris arrived at the DNC headquarters at about 11:25 a.m. on January 6th, all having missed this device sitting under a bush between two benches in front of the DNC headquarters.
This is about the person who discovered the devices, because the open question still remains. Supposedly, this woman who is tied to law enforcement walked past at 12 o'clock, no bomb. Comes back at 12:40, oh my gosh, there's a bomb. So either, if she's telling the truth, the bomb had to be planted in between 12 and 12:40. If she's not telling the truth, if she's in on the scam because she had to discover the bomb right before they went to a vote to certify the election, where several Republican senators were ready to vote on a motion to not certify, to force an audit of the election before they certified. That could not happen. The Dems, the deep state, and the globalists could not allow there to be a motion to forestall the certification of the election pending an audit, because they knew an audit would reveal that there was massive fraud in the Dominion machines, that they would start looking into the election graphs where suddenly Biden jumps up 300,000 votes in key precincts. They would start looking at the fact that there were more votes counted in certain precincts than there were registered voters. They would start finding out all this stuff, and it would have called into question the entire election. They could not allow that to happen. So they're talking about the woman who discovered the bombs. They're also talking about the fact that if the bombs were planted the night before Kamala Harris went to the DNC, they had advanced teams go there with bomb-sniffing dogs. So you're telling me a bomb-sniffing dog just miraculously missed this thing? So there are so many questions. There are so many holes in the official FBI narrative that we have to remake the entire narrative, because none of it, I believe, is true. And so now the FBI is saying they've arrested this Brian Cole. We don't know who he is. We don't know anything about him. So we got to find that out. But I'm telling you right now, I am willing to have an open mind, but I still do not trust the FBI. And even under Cashin and Dan Bongino at this point, the reason I'm having trouble trusting the FBI is because we still do not have any information on Thomas Crooks. Where's the information on the person who tried to kill the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump? We have what is clearly a doctored narrative over the Charlie Kirk assassination. There are so many open questions in that. I do not buy that some deranged leftist trans lover shot him with a 30-06. The video itself, if you watch the gruesome video of Charlie Kirk getting shot, you can tell it is not a 30-06 bullet. The only way that is a 30-06 bullet is if it basically grazes his neck, clips his jugular, he bleeds out, but it hits him in such a way that it doesn't really impact. It goes right, slices past just deep enough to get the jugular, and he falls over. But then you would have a bullet. That bullet would have kept going through the tent. It would end up somewhere. The idea that this bullet hit him full in the neck and that his neck bone stopped a 30-06 bullet is utter preposterous hogwash. So there are so many holes in that narrative. So we've got now people that we supposedly trust running the FBI, and we've got 3 investigations with supposed breakthroughs. Well, I mean, there's not really a breakthrough. They arrested the guy within 24 hours in the Charlie Kirk assassination. We've got this supposed breakthrough in the J6 case, and we've got still no new information in the Thomas Crooks attempted assassination of President Trump. It is very, very hard to trust the FBI at this point in time. So I want to see this press conference. Let me know what you think in the comments.